So if you're talking about the basically being un-American is what you were saying, the parallel there is that there's this vague vision of a united Muslim people. It's not really a mission or anything. It's not like your Muslim neighbor has a mission to one day take over your house or the U.S. or whatever. It's more like this hope, this kind of yeah, it's like a long term. At some point, we hope that we would all be united on the good thing, which is Islam, right? It's not. They don't see it as some kind of conquest thing. It's more like they want the best for everybody, and the best is Islam. So, at least like the Arab world being united or the Muslim world being united as one people, that's also a thing. So um, the way that people justify today, when we talk about punishment for apostasy, the way that people justify it is by saying it's like it's tyranny. Basic, no, not tyranny. What's the word for someone who's a spy for a different country? What is it? Treason. Yeah,
Mm.
they say it is treason for you to leave religion and like be open about it, or sorry, leave Islam and be open about it because you're a traitor to your people. And that's how they used to justify, or that's how modern day Muslims would justify this punishment back in the day, like in the days of the Prophet, because it was more of a political military group sort of thing. But many see it this way till now, and we're always told that we're selling out to the West, to the secularists, to the whatever insert group here, if we're atheists or if we don't believe in Islam anymore. And that happens to coincide with a lot of people who do have access to information and do get to travel and do get to see other worlds. They happen to speak English, for example. So it's very convenient to say that they're selling out to the West. Like I sound like I was raised in the West, for example, but
Yeah,
I
you don't have
only
any kind of. You said English was your second language, right? But
yeah.
you don't have a noticeable accent. So
And
I
it's
wouldn't
not
know
because I
that.
was taught like it's not because my teachers had no noticeable accents. They had very thick Arabic accents, but I just picked it up from some friends who went to even to fancy private schools with actual American teachers. And yeah, but people seem to presume that I must have grown up in the West, and that's why I idolize secularism, whatever that means. So I do see parallels there with the whole treason angle.
It strikes me as just one, ignorance, but this idea of tying in your religious beliefs to the socio-political or nationalistic. I don't really know what we're calling the Islamic people, but it amazes me that a group of people who share a religion in common view themselves as a people. Do they not? How does the average boy or girl in school, how do they view people from other Islamic countries? Like, how much do you learn about
Mm,
the United Arab Emirates or Qatar or these other countries, where Turkey, where
yeah.
they're Islamic countries, but obviously very different Islamic countries from do how much education
Mhm.
is brought to the differences in the different cultures of the Middle East.
Well, let me clarify then. It's all sort of symbolic more than anything. It's I don't know if virtue signaling is the right phrase for that, but it's not actual feelings of unity and actual action and learning about the other countries. I personally can say in the schooling system that I was in, it's like private schools. We were focused on sciences, math, these sorts of subjects that are more useful, or at least in their minds more practical, compared to arts and humanities and history and geography and things like that. I don't know why, but that was the focus. So I learned almost next to nothing about other Arab countries or other countries in the world.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, this sense of unity is all basically just surface level. It's not really anything substantial for the most part. It does come in handy every now and then if there's some kind of crisis in one country or another. There might be some more donations, things like that, but that's
Hmm.
about the extent of it.
What was your impression, or what was your perspective on the different offshoots or denominations within Islam, the different Islamic customs, and the Shia Sunni split, and people
Hmm.
who practice differently and other faiths. Certainly, the women in these different Islamic countries, the attire and the presence of Shia law is different from country to country. So, what was your understanding of that? Did you ever ask why that was different, or did you have any awareness of that?
Yeah. So that's two parts. First, I'll talk about like the different offshoots of Islam.
Mm-hmm.
I was a Sunni, so part of the majority,
Mm-hmm.
and to me, like that's all I knew. I didn't even hear about Shia till a certain point in my life because, like Islamic studies class, for example, we don't talk about this is what Shiism is. It's just by default Sunni Islam. I didn't live in a part of the Middle East where there were enough Shias around me to identify or to know about. So yeah, I knew nothing. And when I did find out, I asked my family. I asked them, wait, what does that mean? And they told me, oh, never mind. It's like basically it's a misinterpretation of religion. They think something about one of the prophet's friends or another, blah blah blah. It's not really what you should be focusing on, and that was the extent of it.
Mm-hmm.
Any other smaller offshoots was just yeah, definitely not Islam. Like that's the default. Like some of them I've only heard of in the past 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was only when I started entertaining like what other interpretations are there when I was really, really looking for clarity, in this religion. Um, yeah, so that's what I thought of them. I didn't know much about them at all.
And were you aware that the existence or the treatment of Sharia in the different countries? Were you aware that it was done a certain way and a different way and a different way and United Arab Emirates, where you have all these countries that have a different interpretation of the law? Or was
Mhm.
that even in your crosshairs at the time?
So, uh, here's what I thought of it. So I grew up, and over time, I was told a little bit about the laws. Like, for example, this is a bit gruesome, and I'm not going to go into details, but if you steal something and there are enough witnesses and so on, and it's proven, you
Right.
would get your hand chopped off.
Mm-hmm.
And a punishment like that, I learned about it as a child. I don't remember exactly if my parents were like they weren't saying this is something awful that does that we don't believe in. It was more like this is what Islam says would happen, and it does apply it sometimes. And so in my head, and then I asked them, wow, why would they do that? And then they told me so that people don't steal. It's just to scare people off from doing it, so you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to do it. It was basically a scare tactic, but if it came down to it, it would happen, right? Um, and it didn't concern me too much as a child because I didn't see myself as a thief or being in that position.
Mm-hmm.
So the shock of that really wore off pretty quickly because I was still in a very receptive phase of my life where, this is how things are, I suppose. Okay, if the adults say that this stops crime, then it must be true, Um, that's just how I thought of it as a child,
Mm-hmm.
because I trusted the people around me, especially my family. And again, because the default was Islam, I was thinking, as I was always told, this is the best way to like govern people and do well as a nation and like live a good, fulfilling life to go to heaven and so on. So whatever was told to me, I didn't know about the outside world really when I was a child to compare it to. And when I did see that the outside world did a little better in certain areas or others, I was told that they're getting their rewards in this life, but they're going to go to hell in the afterlife. So God is testing them by giving them a lot of things now. So there was always an answer for everything.
Did you want to ask a question, Sonny? Looking
Oh,
at
well,
your
I would
flashlight
just,
for a second.
first of all, that is very similar to what Southern Baptists are told as well. That when you look
How
at
similar religion is, huh?
it, really, it's striking me as being incredibly similar.
Go on.
I'm thinking about how even though we have the ability, thinking about the earlier conversation, you and Bryce were talking about access to information, and at first it was very controlled, and then there was a little bit more as time went on. Well, we have a lot of ability to get that information, but kids in evangelical families are restricted and told that if they search for certain things, or if they look for those things, it's worldly, and it's literally allowing Satan or demons or sin into your world. And it's enough to scare kids, even in their teens, to not look for things. Or if they start to find something, their immediate reaction is, oh, wait a minute, that's of this world. I can't do that, or I'm going to end up going to hell. So I'm thinking about that with yours, because yours is even more restricted than ours would be, I would think.